There has been a major update to the Pokemon Unite database courtesy of the MathCord Discord, because not only do Pokemon gain crit as they level up, but they also get cooldown reduction and lifesteal. This is one of the most important videos you will ever watch about Pokemon Unite, because it gives you the character-specific stats that you need to take advantage of. So please, if you enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like, share it with all your friends, social media, anyone that you know that plays Pokemon Unite, and comment your thoughts down below. Here's an example for just one Pokemon, Garchomp. Everyone is playing Garchomp wrong because they don't understand how Garchomp's stats work. So as we can see right here, at level 1, you're not getting any crit, any cooldown reduction, any lifesteal, but at level 5, that's when you end up with a little bit of crit, actually a good amount, 10%, and then some lifesteal. But here's the kicker. Going from level 8 to level 9 is your power spike. Evolving into Garchomp isn't your power spike, because a level 9 Gabite ends up at 10% lifesteal and gets an extra 10% critical hit rate. So if you're a Garchomp player and you've been going, well, I need to fall back and farm and I can't be in that next team fight because I'm going to be more valuable as a level 10 Garchomp than a level 9 Gabite, you're actually losing games. And people will observe this and be like, oh, Garchomp's just a bad Pokemon because it comes online too late. No, you're actually coming online a level earlier than expected, and you need to understand these stats to take advantage of it. And I think it also means that the builds on Garchomp are wrong. Razor Claw giving 2% critical hit rate when you're getting 20% by level 9 doesn't really feel worth it, even when paired with a Scope Lens, even with the passive of Razor Claw for the early game. I really feel like Focus Band is the best play, because you go Focus Band, Buddy Barrier, and then Scope Lens, because you're getting 10% lifesteal. So if you get that 26% chance to crit, that bonus damage is also going to apply into your lifesteal, synergize with your passive, and then Focus Band procs, and now you're just like Giga healing through burst, and then you're unstoppable in the duel, because then you start to scale into the Garchomp. Actually, not even Garchomp, Gabite, because level 9 is when you come online, and then level 10 is when you go out of control. So you really need to take advantage of this stuff. Also, some other examples. I'm a Cramorant main. I know that Surf has an 8-second cooldown, but I always found it weird when I'm just randomly like at Zapdos pit or like randomly in the late game, I throw out Surf, I look down, and it has a 6-second cooldown. I'm not running any cooldown items, I'm not running Shell Bell or Energy Amplifier, so why is the cooldown magically less than the stated 8-second cooldown? I don't know, I just ran with it and threw out the abilities on cooldown, but that's why, because you just randomly get stats, and different Pokemon are going to get different stats. It makes sense that a special attacker is going to be getting cooldown reduction for their abilities, and it does kind of scale in an interesting way, because look at that, level 5, 5% cooldown reduction, level 9, 15%, and then level 13, 25%. So some Pokemon gain more stats at different levels, or different stats at different levels compared to other Pokemon, because Garchomp, if we go there, we're just staying at the 20%. The only thing we get is 5% more lifesteal at level 13, which isn't as big of a power spike as other Pokemon at level 13, or even Garchomp compared to level 9. And I feel like it's a lot more interesting when it comes to physical attackers, because with the special attackers, yeah, you just look at cooldown reduction, Gardevoir gets 25%. So that makes Future Sight seem less efficient, because like, oh man, the Future Sight cooldowns is what you want, but if you're just getting 25% and then you're using Psyshock, even if you miss Psyshocks or something, or if you're just like getting that into that second rotation, it doesn't matter. Like, Psyshock is still going to be really, really good. Gengar, also interesting on that 25%. I don't think Shadow Ball Dream Eater has viability compared to Sludge Bomb Hex, but it means like if you miss a Hex rotation or a Sludge Bomb or something, it's going to be coming online a bit sooner, and it gives you kind of like that leeway. And also it might explain why you can use Sludge Bomb and then have permanent Hexes by the time the Sludge Bomb upgrades. And once again, all these numbers are going to change through levels, but it just makes sense that like, oh, special attackers are going to be scaling like this. And this is also why people are talking about, oh, but Venusaur's cooldown gets so crazy low on that Solar Beam. You need to get there with the Venusaur to make the full use of it through levels. So the level 13 power spike is bigger and more important than people think, because like, oh, I get my last move upgrade. Nah, you get a crazy amount of stats, and I think it's a lot more interesting to break down on the attacker Pokemon. So physical attackers, they start getting crit rate and lifesteal, and that also explains why Cinderace is healing, even though it might not have the faint ability. Like, it's like, okay, cool, he uses other stuff, but why is he healing so much? That's just base lifesteal, but Faint adds an extra 30% on the next 3 basic attacks, but Flame Charge, people are starting to pick up Flame Charge more with the Pyro Ball because Pyro Ball has been getting constantly ridiculously buffed, so it makes the Pokemon really interesting. But also, as an evolution Pokemon similar to Garchomp, you need to pay attention to when your level spikes are coming online, because look at that, level 5, suddenly 15% crit rate. Cinderace is critting all the time crazily and has just a little bit of lifesteal, so something to pay attention to. Then wait, what? Level 9 is when you get 30%? Oh, that explains why suddenly, like, you just get crit more. It's like, wait a second, Scoplins only gives 6%. Why is there so much crit happening in the game right now? That is why. And it also makes me think that the gap between Cinderace and Greninja is a lot less than I thought, because I don't play these Pokemon, so I never like looked at the crit rate per level and the lifesteal and some of the other stats. So I just thought that because Cinderace has crit baked into its passive, like, oh, you go into Blaze, now you're just critting like twice as much as Greninja, so Cinderace is just going to be the better Pokemon. Nah, you only get 10% crit. So 30% compared to 40%, and then depending on if you're running the crit items, it doesn't really seem like that much. It also makes me feel like, similar to Garchomp, getting rid of the Razor Claw and going into a Focus Band is just the better play, because it lets you not feed too much, and it helps you like win fights or get little bits of advantage, and then you scale into your power spikes playing around the Focus Band, and then you're getting a lot more effectiveness than the extra little bit of crit. Because even for Greninja, if we're like, let's just ignore the Blaze ability and the crit, but if we're talking about Greninja, going from 30%, that's kind of like a third of the time Greninja's critting, and then you add the 8% from items, well, 38%, it's just a little more than a third that you're critting, so it doesn't feel like it makes that much of a difference, because you're adding very little onto what ends up scaling into a lot. So 30 versus 38% doesn't really sound that crazy, and just sounds like RNG BS, and even if you get rid of Razor Claw, well, that's 36 versus 38%, so keep Scoplins, since you need that bonus damage and all the crazy stuff. Also, if you're critting with that Scoplins bonus damage, you're getting a bit more lifesteal, since it factors off of your auto attack, and it heals you more if you're critting off of that. So that's something to keep in mind. And yeah, now this opens up a lot of different play and ideas, and when you want to power spike and what you want to play around, especially because of the crit numbers. And that's like maybe why Absol drops off. Wait a second, Absol, this is the critting Pokemon. Critical hit rate is increased by 15%. Superlight doesn't seem to scale with levels, but even Absol's level scaling, alright, where's our critical hit rate? At level 5, so first gank. Also something to be aware of when it comes to ganking Pokemon or jungling Pokemon. Absol gets more cooldown reduction than crit, even though it seems like he's the crit focus scaling character. You come online at level 5, you get those little stats. Now you're looking at like 26% crit on that first gank. Kind of lines up, but then as you go into level 9, only 10%, and then you don't get any more. So Absol actually ends up with 25% crit, less than other Pokemon, and very little more than others like even Lucario, where Garchomp's getting 20%, Lucario's getting 20%, Charizard's getting 20%, so Absol's ending at 25% before items. And then actually gets the cooldown reduction, so you need to play around Absol's cooldowns more than playing around the crit into the late game, because its scaling isn't as good. Now the question is, if Absol mains pick up this information and they change their play patterns around the crit, will it inflate Absol to be a better character, or is this the reason why Absol drops off in the late game and there's nothing that can be done about it because the character's stat scaling is flawed compared to other Pokemon that spike really hard? And not even the late game, like getting to level 9 on some of these Pokemon, not that crazy. And like I said, Garchomp players, they've been throwing games and not even knowing it. It's like, oh, I just need to get to level 10. No, play around that level 9. You are a filthy Gabite, and you need to be team fighting even at that point. Or even going in, like if you're almost about to evolve at level 8, you go into a fight, you get some assist experience, and that gets you into level 9, boom. Now you're actually crazier in that fight, and you get to snowball it with the rest of your team. And then you want to use these stats with other aspects of the game, because if you're just gaining lifesteal, that's going to synergize super hard with Unite moves. Now, the stats that you get from Unite moves are fairly obscure, but it seems like what you get is 20% cooldown reduction. So you use your Unite move, and you get 20% cooldown reduction, which also might explain why it feels like abilities are coming online a lot faster. I've definitely felt that with Cramorant, where it's like, wait, why is my Surf not 8 seconds, and it feels like 5 seconds, and it's always up now after I use my Unite move in the late game. That's why. But you're also getting just a base 30% max hit point shield, unless otherwise stated on the Pokemon. Also working with Buddy Barrier, which explains why Buddy Barrier is just so oppressive. And then some attack speed and movement speed. Now you might notice the attack speed if you play other Pokemon like Ninetales. It's like Ninetales, you want that passive, and then you Unite move, and suddenly you're just always getting passive procs because you just become a cannon. You become a machine gun on Ninetales. Well, that's how it works. Same thing for Lucario. Now Lucario is going to be getting more cooldown reduction, but also auto-attacking faster, high movement speed to stick on the opponents, and lifesteal to utilize to then be harder to duel because you're just tanking out more. It also explains why Cinderace is the most ludicrous Pokemon after it uses its Unite move. Also, its Unite move is insane and has other things I wasn't paying attention to. Deals execute damage equal to 14% of the enemy's missing hit points. This is why it always steals Zapdos and Dreadnought. So with this information and the crit and all the other stats that it's getting, also the multipliers, I mean, like, each individual Pokemon needs to be relooked with these power spikes, stats, and how it utilizes them and their builds and their movesets in mind, and then that's how you play around it. So if the Cinderace is up, you just can't leave that up. You gotta KO it, or else it will have the execute on Zapdos or Dreadnought, whereas like some other Pokemon, they're less priority and you can kind of burst objectives through them, but Cinderace can like launch this from screens away, so it can be hard to like find where the Cinderace is hiding and not let it steal on the Zapdos or the Dreadnought. So I mean, like, there's a lot more going on right now that makes the game kind of weird and crazy to explain. Also just like cooldown reduction, how that works. Tank Pokemon, their stats are weird. However, there's this. It seems like tank Pokemon and supports deal an additional 10% damage to wild Pokemon. So not only do attackers and special attackers get like cooldown, and then melee attackers and physical attacking Pokemon end up with like crit and lifesteal, there's also some other hidden values that other Pokemon get to take advantage of, which probably explains why Snorlax Secure on the tackle is so crazy and why Mr. Mime can just fake out clap any Pokemon at once. There's a lot going on in the game. There is a lot of weirdness and madness. Now, I'm not going to individually look at every Pokemon and be like, this Pokemon now scales at this level and pay attention to this. But it's something that I'm going to use in future guides. Fortunately, a lot of the guides I've already made seem to not be altered too much. Like, there's just going to be exceptions and weirdness and universals and whatnot. Like, okay, Garchomp doesn't want Razor Claw, even though it seems like the perfect item, but I still feel like Zeraora wants Razor Claw because you're using Spark and you're sticking to them, and you're going to have a lot of activation chances on that. And Zeraora only picks up the 10% crit, so you get 5% crit and then 10% crit. Now, the cooldown reduction, that also explains a lot of shenanigans going on with Discharge. Also, when you use your Unite move, and then you get another 20% on top of that. So, playing around Unite moves actually a lot more important than people think. It's not just, ooh, crazy Unite move and some movement speed. It's also a lot more fighting power that you need to take advantage of or respect from your opponent. I feel that, in general, a lot of people aren't respecting it. Like, if the opponents, like, burn multiple Unite moves to engage, and there's, like, Buddy Bears and stuff popping off, just leave. Just run away from the fight. If you can get out, let them do that. And then now you need to kind of figure out how you're going to counter-engage that, because in theory, they shouldn't be able to, like, take Zapdos just from, like, all the Buddy Bears and stuff going on. Or you, like, let it wear off a little bit to where what you want to do is then time it. Not immediately respawn with your own Unite moves and your own engage and stuff. You let them whiff theirs a little bit, and then you try to just wait it out and then go for a better engage as their stats are wearing off, and then you play around with those couple of seconds because they're going to have their Buddy Bears, their Unite move passive going on, and they're going to commit to that fight. And then when theirs wears off, you still have a couple of second window to play around with, or use that advantage to steal the Zapdos or secure it. So I think that a lot of people, they just like instinctively int into people that are engaging on the Unite moves and the buddy barriers when you shouldn't be doing that. You need to give them a little bit of patience, give them a little bit of room. It's not fun, it doesn't feel great, but it's better than straight up dying because you are at such a massive disadvantage. And I think that's going to be most of the considerations that we need to take away from this. The biggest one being Garchomp. That level 9 pop-off on Garchomp is what you want. The second biggest one probably being Absol as to why it becomes invisible into the mid, late, and late game. And also respect on the Cinderace and Greninja and the item optimizations inside of that. And there's probably like a lot of other things to take away in some other Pokemon, especially like how special attackers work. But right now, consistent DPS from like physical attackers seems to be king. And I don't think that the cooldown reduction offsets that as much. But if you are playing, you know, Gardevoir, Pikachu, Cramorant, Ninetales even, some supports, because like you get a little bit of cooldown reduction on some supports, like, oh, that's what's going on. So it's really good to know what's going on, but it's also game breaking and game changing for other Pokemon. And then maybe like considerations for Machamp and Lucario, who are affected by this, but not as much. And Machamp and Lucario are already pretty strong Pokemon, but the Garchomp, that's where it's at. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.